because everyone's mask falls down all the time. Does yours? Does your mask fall down over, it's on your nose? And then you talk. I just see people all day doing this. And it's kind of frustrating, but, honestly, it's still better than spreading your germs everywhere. So, but even Chewy would have to deal with that, were he a real thing. Okay, I am answering more questions. If you have a question, my phone number is 402-256-0768. It's right down here. It's hard to get that to move, right? And you can text me your questions and I will try and answer them. I am actually, after today's broadcast, caught up. And so I will keep answering them because people keep sending them to me. I'm not worried about running out of questions because there's so many different things that people have questions about. But here we go. Okay, let's start answering questions. And comment below if you're watching this and it's been helpful to you. Just type yes and share something that you've learned, something that's helped you, or something that hasn't helped you and you think is stupid that I said. Just comment below because it's fun for me to get to see, while I'm doing these, while I'm live. I try and watch the comments, but it can be a little bit tricky. But I always go back and check them out to see what people have said. I do try and catch them live, though, certainly. And so we'll just start right in here. Okay. 10-month-old sick. Always sick. Sleep trained at 8 months, was STTN. Sleeping through the night. That must be what that means. Context clues. But after sickness, again, back to square one. Sleep train again. Had to feed overnight due to diarrhea. Yes. So there's lots of challenges to keeping a baby sleep trained and sleeping through the night. Sickness, teething, travel, time change, 4th of July, Christmas, holidays, travel, all those different things that interfere. Getting ill is the most common one, and 10-month-olds are almost always sick. And so it is normal to have ebbs and flows in the amount of sleep training that we have, and that's totally normal. And yes, usually I would just go back and sleep train again, whether you do a cry it out method or you do kind of a gentle, like camping style approach, whatever you want. I just noticed that this Sharpie, this is like my house, Sharpie with no lid on it, definitely dead. What was I saying? Yes, whether you do cried out, camping, whatever style sleep training you do, just go back and do that again. And you'll just have to do it again. It'll be like spot treatments, though. I don't think it'll be very long. It'll just be, a night or two, and then, we used to do this. It's easy to get it once you've got it straightened down. If you haven't sleep trained your baby, if you want to sleep train your baby, I have a course. It's called Mighty Sleepers. If you go to mightysleepers.com, you can find it. If you use code 2020 during the 2020 year, it is 20% off because 2020 sucks, and at least you can get good rest. It works for infants, and then there's a whole new section that we just did for big kids. mightysleepers.com. Use coupon code 2020 so that you can get 20% off. And you'll have a sleep-trained baby within less than a week. You'll have a better sleeping toddler or older child, a big kid, within a week or two. I mean, it does take longer for those big kids because they can knock on the door, they can exit their room, they can come get drinks and all the different things that they require. So it does take a little bit longer. But infants, you can sleep train any infant in a week. You can improve things with a toddler, 3-year-old, 4-year-old within 2 weeks and have it much better in a month. So it does take longer. It's not a one-night thing for that age group. mightysleepers.com. Okay. When do we worry about speech delays? I have twin daughters, age 22 months. One loves to repeat words and interact with everyone. The other, I don't know why these text messages come in weird sometimes, but luckily I'm good at puzzles. The other is more of a loner, so to speak. Loves to be on her own, has language, not a ton of words, but rarely uses them. We have an appointment with pediatrician Friday, but normally she screams the whole time we are there, so we are not sure how it will get addressed. So a couple of things to unpack from here. Speech delays in general, when to worry about them. There's not like a specific time where I say this speech delay is totally abnormal, because kids develop at different rates. Kids develop at different clips. Some are really early talkers, some are later talkers. it kind of takes a little bit more context to say, here's the trajectory of speech. It's like if you go in and you get weighed, and one day their weight is down a lot, but then the rest of the time it was normal. You kind of have to like take it into the context of, here's the trajectory of speech. Are we keeping up with where we should be? And are we going to reach the appropriate milestones when we do, or are we delayed? I think it is good to just go to regular visits with your pediatrician for that specific reason, so that you're able to talk through those things and kind of have some mile markers, so that when you come in with a 2-year-old, you say, oh, here's where they were at last time. Here's the progress they made. That's good. Or here's where they were at last time. They didn't really make much progress. Well, they had a bunch of ear infections, blah, 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 blah. Here's some reasons. Let's keep an eye and continue to plot the trajectory. Or I don't really see a reason that they didn't do that. Maybe we should get a little bit more further evaluation done. Those things help to have context, and that's why it's important to go to your pediatrician. So I don't have any specific advice on when to worry in your child's specific case. I do find lots of twins are different, though. One twin will speak early, one will speak late. Same goes with siblings. Like one will speak early, one will speak late. In the end, they all argue and fight at the dinner table when they're 5 and 6. Regardless of who talks early and who talks first and all those things like that. And they all have their different personalities. You kind of called one of them a loner here, which I don't think you mean in a negative term, but I like to focus when parents are, I am on the phone, yes. Sorry. I like to refocus when people call their kids shy or loners or things like that, just because it kind of has a negative connotation, when I don't think shy or loner or anything like that is really a negative. As an introvert, I don't mind shy kids, and we can't make shy kids extroverted and expect them to be happy. So if we avoid labels like that, I'm not trying to call you out or be judgmental. I don't think you meant anything by it. It's not a big deal at the end of the day. But I try and reframe that as just introvert, extrovert, without any judgment on which is better than the other, because that varies, and I don't think that one is better than the other. Tangent. Hey, Dr. B, tips for holding tips for holding while doing the nose Frida for a 3-month-old. Takes both parents and is very stressful on all involved. Amen. So for the nose Frida is just a nasal aspirator. You use your own sucking power. I think they work great. I used to have these like handouts that I would give because nobody had heard of them, and I saw them at a conference like when they first came out. And so I was like, here's what you got to do. This is crazy. Now everybody knows about them. Everybody has one or a bunch. They got them as shower gifts before they had their baby, and everyone's like, oh, that's so gross, but they do actually work quite well. There's a bunch of different brands. I don't have a brand preference at all, because I think that anything that allows you to get sucking power out is helpful. So the best way to do this for a 3-month-old, I think that 3-month-olds, for the most part, you can do as a one-person job. I mean, it never hurts to have an extra set of hands when you're doing this. But in general, I think if you, let's see, how do I do this? We haven't had a 3-month-old for a while, but we have sucked out noses. I would love to do a demo, and if not for COVID, I would totally do a demo. Maybe what I need to do is have a kid that I just saw that was COVID negative, and I already had COVID, so I could do a nose Frida on them and be about as safe as, well, they probably have something else, then I would get what they have. I don't know. I'd have to work that through. If one of my kids gets a cold and isn't COVID, actually if it is, I don't know. I would like to do a demo of how to do a nose Frida as a video. I think that would be almost as popular as my swaddling video. So what I would do is so here's how I would do a 3-month-old. You put them on a soft surface. An ottoman is about as perfect as it gets, or their changing table, just somewhere where they're not on the ground, because it's really hard to do that when they're on the ground. You want them elevated a little bit. Hand on forehead, because what you really need to do is control this movement right here. And then nose Frida or aspirator device in the other hand. You put the nose Frida into your mouth. You do this. Their lower body can flail around or do its thing. And that's how you best do a nose Frida. It's gross, but it is so effective and works really well. So that's how I would do that. If you have a second person, then they can kind of hold the lower body and you can stick to the upper body. The 3-month-old, I mean, I hate when parents say just you wait, but honestly, a 3-month-old, Just you wait until they're a 13-month-old or an 18-month-old and you're trying to do this. It is much, much, much more challenging. So enjoy that 3-month-old that is not as strong as you are yet. Okay, and then the second question is exposure to TV screen or noise negative for a 3-month-old? If we have it on, she will do whatever it takes to watch it. That's pretty normal. I don't think that's a big deal. If you're not planting her in front of the TV, if you have the TV or background noise on or radio or something like that, I don't think that's a big deal. I would try not to do it all the time because oftentimes when there are studies that show that when parents have a TV on all the time or background noise, they don't talk as much. You want your baby to hear your voice. You want to hear the baby to hear words that aren't the talking heads on TV. And so I wouldn't have it on all the time, but a little bit here or there. If you're sitting down and you want to cuddle with the baby and watch a show, that's not a big deal. Okay, next question. So let's see here. 7-month-old is refusing to open her mouth for a spoonful of purees. Are mashed scrambled eggs or soft vegetables okay for this age to try to get her interested in eating? Totally fine. Yes, you can try any of those things. Some babies like purees, some babies don't like purees. It's totally user dependent. And sometimes parents will miss the puree window. I should make that a thing. There's this wake window stuff that I see all the time now, and I'm going to make a puree window. The window in which children will accept purees. You may have already missed that, and you might just try either little bites of food or putting stuff on her tray and letting her eat on her own because she might just not want to be spoon-fed. Spoons become so passé between like 8 and 24 months, and it's mostly eating by one's hands, and so that's totally normal. Nothing to worry on. Hello, Dr. Boucher. My friend is one of your patients and referred me to this number. My son is 1 year old, and we have tried to introduce milk. He's breastfed, and I'm still nursing. That must be a he or she mix. He has table food pretty well, but hates milk. I've tried everything except for replacing a nursing session with milk. He doesn't know what to do with the bottle. My question is how important is it for him to have milk? He drinks lots of water, and I give him foods with calcium, but I don't want to nurse forever. So what do I do? Great question. This is one that I get asked a lot, and sometimes it creates controversy about milk because the first year of life is all about milk. And, we talk about breast milk, we talk about formula, we talk about cow's milk, and not introducing actual cow's 1% whole milk, whatever, until 1. So there's just a lot of stuff built up around the milk. And then at 1, we're like, well, just give them milk. And then some people are told you have to give exactly this many ounces or a problem will occur. You have to give this many, but you can't give this many. And if they don't meet this amount, you are doing something wrong and you need to get more milk in. And I do hear that a lot from people. There's no data that you have to have a certain amount of milk in your diet in order to thrive. And so what I tell parents is give them a sippy cup of milk at mealtime. If they don't drink it, fine. If they drink it, great. I worry much more about the babies that drink milk, and are milkaholics and drink 30 plus ounces of milk per day and don't eat food and just, demand the milk all the time than the ones that take 0 milk per day. Because you can get the nutrition that you need. You can get the calcium and phosphorus and protein and vitamin D and all those things from the food that you eat. You can get it from the sunlight. You can get it from the rest of the stuff. There are plenty of people that live on Earth and become Nobel Prize winners that never had cow's milk as a 1-year-old, and they turn out just fine. And so I don't think you need to worry about that. If your child doesn't like milk, then don't push it, don't stress over it, don't make it into a big thing, just move on. You can do water. You can do an alternative milk like almond milk, goat's milk. Wait, not goat's milk. Actually, goat's milk is fine. I don't have anything against goat's milk. I don't know why I started to say that. It's just not a normal one that people here in the United States drink a lot of. You can do almond milk, you can do oat milk, you can do pea milk, you can do hemp milk for all I care. You can do goat's milk. I think you can even milk a cat according to Meet the Parents. So whatever kind of milk you want, try not to give them too much milk. This rant has gone on way too long about the milk. And so what I would say is a sippy cup of milk offered at mealtime, water the rest of the day. End of story. Period. That's how much milk to have. My 3-year-old goes to daycare and had an exposure and now has to stay home for 14 days. Whereas if he actually got it, he could return after 10. I want to take precautions and be safe too, but man, it's crazy and it's hard to figure out what to do with work and money. I guess I don't have a question. I just need to vent. How can I take 14 days off with every exposure? Amen. Also, they won't tell parents if it was another child or an adult. Isn't that information that could be shared without names? I'm just a little worried how to handle it all. What are your thoughts? I hear you. This is really a challenging time, not just because of the pandemic, not just because of the case counts that are out of control, not just because of all the politicalization and family against family members on whether or not it's real or whether or not we should do Thanksgiving or anything like that. On top of all of those stresses, in an election year, in a pandemic year, you're getting these exposures, you're getting lack of information. Well, did they have it? Is it real? Who was it? You don't have that good information. And on top of all of that, it's like you're out for a really long period of time, 14 days. Now, it is faster if you get it, but of course you don't want your child to get an unnecessary infection. It does seem unfair that if they are positive, then 10 days later they can come out of quarantine. But if they are isolation, but if they have it, they're out for 14 days. And the real kicker is if your child gets it, then you're quarantined, unless you get it, for 24 days. They're 10 days plus the next 14 days. The challenging thing about coronavirus is the asymptomatic spread, period. Because if we knew everybody had it on day one of when they were infectious, then we could just stop this in its tracks. The problem is everybody gets together and then the next day somebody has a fever and a cough and they had coronavirus. Then we got to work our way back several days. That makes it more confusing across the board for all of this. And that's what makes it really challenging for families to know exactly what to do or even have a guess of what to do in the midst of you have an exposure, got to stay home for 14 days. Oh, by the way, you can have another exposure right when you go back to daycare, another 14 days. I hear from people all the time, I wish they had just gotten it, not because I want them to be sick and to expose other people and to contribute to the case counts and everything like that, but just for certainty that it's 10 days and we're not going to have to do this again for a while. And so I do get it, and I get that I don't have the answer and that it is really stressful and frustrating, and I'm sorry that you're going through that and that it's so challenging at this moment. So I do appreciate that it's really challenging, and it's a really tough time. And I was watching Dr. Fauci this morning, was on Good Morning America. I don't really watch Good Morning America, but I did see it on YouTube, and he did say this, which was a good line, which I wrote down. Dr. Fauci says, "Help is on the way. Have hope. Help is on the way. We will have a vaccine in 2021. We will get it to the majority of people in 2021. Things will improve, but it will take time, and it's sacrificial for everybody, and it's not being able to work and all the different things that go along with it. It's a really tough time, and so I get that, and I'm sorry." Okay, hello. I purchased your Mighty Sleepers program and have been working on putting my 1-year-old down fed, dry, and awake. She gave away the program. Fed, dry, awake. She will fall asleep almost immediately on her own, but only sleeps for 2 to 3 hours, and then she wakes up screaming. I have tried letting her go back to sleep on her own. We have tried changing her diaper and topping her off with another bottle and laying her back down, but neither of those work. She will not go back to sleep on her own if she wakes in the middle of the night. This has been going on since my husband returned from deployment. Thank you for his service. He was gone for the first 10 months of her life. Oh, that must have been so challenging, especially in a pandemic. And previously she was sleeping through the night on her own. What else can I do? Okay. Totally normal. I don't mind that you gave away the secrets of the Mighty Sleepers, which is fed, dry, awake. I appreciate your husband's deployment and his service, so thank you for that. I would do a couple things. One is if you go back into the Mighty Sleepers program, you'll find sleep regressions. Watch that, because that will tell you what to do in general when you have these regressions. Goes down to sleep fine, wakes through the night. There's a specific module in there that says how to decide, is it teething? Is it growth? Is it illness? Is it they're playing you? Any of those things could be the case. And if you need more help, I would love to help you. So send me a message and we'll get you set up to just do a one-on-one free sleep consult so that we can work through this. Just send me another text message and say, hey, I was the one that asked you this question above. We'll get a sleep consult set up for you. In general, what I would do is be consistent with what you're doing. So you said that she goes down to sleep on her own easily and quickly, which is the best news of all. Once they can do that, it's really easy to fix overnight. Once they can fall asleep on their own quickly and easily, it's easy to fix overnight. If you think she's hungry, I would just feed her. Most 1-year-olds don't need to, but if you're nursing, you might just feed her. Otherwise, I would just do a little there, give her pacifier back if she takes one, something along those lines. Be consistent and you'll see it improve quickly. But check out the sleep regressions module because that will probably answer your question. And if it doesn't, then please, please, please let me know and we'll do a one-on-one free sleep consult to get things straight. Okay, hey, Dr. Boucher, texting you all the way from California. Your page is great and so helpful. Thanks. I have a question about getting iron supplements into my 10-month-old. Her iron levels were low when checked at her 9-month checkup, and they told me to give her a liquid iron supplement, but it's impossible to get it into her mouth. I've tried about every method. She was exclusively breastfed and never learned to take a bottle and has never been into pacifier, so I'm scared I'm messing her up by not getting iron in her. Thank you so much for all you do. Okay, this is challenging. We check a iron level, so it's really a hemoglobin rather than an iron level. When babies are around a year old, some practices do it at 9 months, some do it at a year. It kind of just depends on the practice. It's not a big deal either way. We do that because we know iron deficiency anemia can have long-lasting problems, and anemia in general can have long-lasting problems if not corrected. Breastfed babies are often low on their iron because breast milk doesn't have a ton of iron, and it sounds like you're attempting to get them to take liquid iron supplement. I guess in general terms, I can't speak to your specific child, but you can certainly get lots of good iron in a 9-month-old's diet. Things like red meat, things like leafy green vegetables like spinach, things like all the other things that I can't think of off the top of my head, but you can Google iron-rich foods. Make sure you're incorporating those into her diet on a regular basis. Most of this will self-correct on its own. Sometimes there's other causes of anemia that need to be addressed, so I can't speak to any of those for your child. But I would say in terms of getting them to take it, you can mix it into something. You can drip it in the corner of their mouth. You can combine it with something that they really like. There's lots of different strategies to get it. It doesn't taste very good. It causes constipation, so I can understand why she might be reluctant to take it, in which case I would try and do leafy green vegetables and other things like that. Talk to your pediatrician about the specifics, and in general, I wouldn't stress about it too much because most of this just self-corrects with diet and time anyways. Hey, Dr. B, do you have any tips to help with colic and reflux, especially at night? I'm exclusively breastfeeding. I've started the MSPI diet. We burp during and elevate after feedings. Our baby is having difficulty laying flat and sleep due to reflux. Any tips in general for colic or reflux, especially at night? Did your baby have this? If so, comment below. I need to mark my place because this is the last question that I can answer, and I don't want to re-answer questions or miss any other questions. I'm going to delete all those old questions. Okay. If your baby had colic or fussiness, especially at night, just comment a yes below or send an emoji so that you can see, how many people have worked through this and suffered through this and come out on the other side. But it is really hard. I don't know how old this baby is, so it's a little bit difficult to know exactly what, but colic is normal. Colic is usually fussiness in the evenings that's mostly inconsolable, and we can't figure out what's wrong with them. The things that parents try: MSPI diet, gas drops, frequent burping, windy, what are the other, gripe water, like a probiotic. There's all sorts of things because parents just can't stand this, understandably, because it really is frustrating and you feel really bad as a parent that you can't help your child in their moment of need, but it is totally normal. Things that I like in general are swaddling baby up, holding them, swooshing them around a little bit, saying they're there, feeding them if they seem hungry, trying to help them fall asleep. Sometimes that means holding a pacifier in their mouth, sticking your finger in their mouth so that they can suck on something. Some of those strategies work, but they take time. I remember distinctly many times with our 5 kids, they're just fussy in the evening, and I would literally swaddle them up, hold them, and walk around. Like, we have our first floor, like goes in a circle so you can do laps. And I would have my Kindle in one hand and be walking in the other, reading my book with just a crying, swaddled baby, trying to calm them down. Totally normal, not easy to handle, but it does get better over time. The MSPI diet, milk, soy, protein intolerance, is something that people on the coast of the United States and around the world might not be familiar with. It's kind of a Midwesterner term that was coined in Omaha, actually. And so if you probably live in the Midwest if you use that term, but it's more the idea that babies are uncomfortable because of proteins from milk. I don't see a lot of babies that truly have that. I see a lot of babies that are told they have that, or parents think they have that because their sister-in-law had a baby with it and it was miserable and blah, blah, blah. Usually I wait to define that if we're fussy all the time, if we have poop that has blood or red streaks in it, and if it improves with dairy elimination. So you kind of have to have all those three things in my book to really make that definitive diagnosis. So I have very few patients that I write down as a diagnosis MSPI, nor very few patients that I say you got to eliminate milk or soy, because that's a pain for moms and it makes things more difficult for moms. So I'm reluctant to make that diagnosis on a frequent basis, and I find that the nice thing is I can say I don't think this is what it is, and then I can go check my work in a few weeks and see if I was right or see if I was wrong, because the parents come back in and they say, yes, things improved, you were right, or no, they didn't improve and now we have bloody poops and everything like that. The vast majority of the time I'm right, at least at work. In terms of things get better with time, and we just have to give things time rather than switching formulas, making all these different dietary changes or restrictions that make it difficult to sustain breastfeeding. Most babies work through this on their own. If laying flat at bedtime in particular is a problem, I really like swaddle then sleep. So it's swaddle, feed, sleep. See, I have my Mighty Sleepers course, and in there, I have a little script that I use so I don't forget things. Swaddle, feed, sleep. If your baby has trouble laying flat and going to sleep, it's usually that you feed them, then you change your diaper, swaddle them all up, and in that process they just get all agitated and discombobulated, and then it's hard for them to fall asleep. So then you're holding them, and then you try and lay them down and they wake up, and then you hold them again, and then you try and lay them down and they wake up, and then eventually it's time to feed them again. So you start the whole process over, having gotten no sleep. Instead, what I like to do, or tell parents to do, is before you feed them, change your diaper. Before you feed them, make sure they're in their jammies, and then swaddle them up. You can, if you're a pro swaddler, you can do this with just a regular old swaddling blanket. Some parents, for this specific, like to have the Velcro ones just because they stay better. And then what I would do is I would swaddle the baby, then feed them. They fall asleep at breast, or they fall asleep with a bottle in their mouth. Then you take them and you lay them down. You don't even have to burp them. Babies don't, burping is not a requirement. You can just go straight from swaddling to sleeping. And that works really well. And I hear a lot of success with that. And why didn't we think of that? Well, that's why you have a pediatrician. That's why I'm here to tell you these things that you don't know about. That's my long-winded advice for all that. Now, I hope this has been helpful. I hope that you have gotten something out of this. Comment yes below. Comment something that you think was great, or something that you think was ridiculous or stupid that I said. And if you're on YouTube, will you hit subscribe? And if you're not on YouTube, will you go over to YouTube and hit subscribe, because that's the main place where I put these. And if you hit subscribe, if you click the little bell, then you'll never miss an episode, and you'll always know when I'm going live or when I drop a new one of these, because I try and drop them on a regular basis because I love answering questions. And if you have a question, you can just text me, 402-256-0768. It shows up right on my phone. I screenshot it and I put it right up here as a question. Keep up the good work.